I'm Brett Clark. I'm the Director of Technology here at Greater Clark County Schools. We recently did our very first in-house virtual field trip using Google+. I'm here with our amazing e-learning coaches, and we're just excited about what a great day we had at the Downs. And we've gone on some with other schools, other things to the Connected Classroom, but this is the first one we hosted ourselves. So, usually a teacher would plan a physical field trip where they, have to schedule a bus and get chaperones and spend all day with them and monitor them and all this stuff, and kids are moving different directions. And with a virtual field trip, teachers didn't even have to leave their classroom. They could gather all their kids, around the Promethean boards that we put in their buildings, and we as an e-learning team were able to go out to the Downs, be stationed at 3 different locations, and using Google Hangouts, we're able to build this virtual trip where teachers and students can participate from their classroom. And as e-learning coaches, you guys were able to take them to a place that would have maybe cost hundreds of dollars and taken a whole bunch of logistics and lots of time and chaperone. We're able to then bring them virtually to the Downs with them never ever having to leave their room.
I love physical field trips. Like growing up, and I look back at my experiences in school, those are some of my best memories of going to the Science Center and getting out in the community and going to the Falls of Ohio. But I think it's like everything else with technology we're trying to implement this year. It's not about replacing and totally doing away with the physical field trip, and technology in your classroom is not about doing away with that lesson that you love doing that is impactful for students, but it's just finding a way to wrap that technology around what's going on in your classroom and just enhance it and make it that much better. So it's not a complete replacement, but it's just a great tool at your disposal, and it's 30 to 45 minutes, so you don't have to take that whole day, but it's so impactful. Like Brett said, when you're out in buildings, students will say, hey, I saw you and when you guys were at the Downs, and hey, I got to ask that, you guys answered one of the questions that I asked. It still has that impact, but it's not totally doing away with what teachers love and what teachers are doing. It's just adding to all the great things that's going on in our schools.
And for kids, it's a real world experience. And you get basically one field trip a year where you could do 50.
Right.
Really, however many of these that you wanted to with your curriculum each year.
And I
not
think
limited to just that one.
as the Google community grows, as a teacher, when a teachable moment comes up, you could get on Google Plus and say, I don't know, let's find out. And you ask that question, and when you're in that Google connected workshop community, people respond right away. You can just hop on the Google Plus Hangout right then and say, hey, talk to us about that. And that is super powerful.
And also what I love about it is not just going to a place like the Downs or with the Polar Bears International to the zoo or whatever, is that the potential with the Google Connected Classrooms is for teachers. Let's just say a teacher at Jeff High is teaching Hamlet and a teacher at New Washington is teaching Hamlet, and there needs to be some sort of class discussion about culture or whatever that kids grow up in and the connections that they make with the culture. The kids from Jeff High, I feel like, have a different culture than the kids from New Washington. They could do a Google Hangout together to discuss, how they perceive, based on how they've grown up in their communities, how they perceive those types of literature. It's not just going to, a tourist attraction. I don't. That's what I don't want people to think, is that it's just for visiting places. That there's more educational value in it.
Just like technology is not about the device, the field trip's not about the place. It's
Right.
about the interaction.
I'm gonna go back to that JT said. He talks about some of our students. We didn't get to all their questions. I'd love to see teachers take that into that field trip and say, okay, what questions didn't get answered? And then now the challenge is, can you find those answers to those questions? And so here's a great opportunity for a teacher to extend that field trip beyond just the time that we are participating in the Google Hangout. And now they're taking this, they've activated a student, because it's always imperative as educators that when students have those questions that we strike where the iron is hot. I hear this kid, he has a question he wants to explore, and now let's find a way to then now stretch that student's mind to not. Now you're diving into research skills, you're diving into looking at the validity of sources online, and you're teaching all kinds of great things. And and you're absolutely right, Katie, it goes beyond just the place that we're taking them to, but now you've opened up their mind to really any question that I have now, I can find an answer somewhere to it.
I think it was a spectacular opportunity. We had a lot of fun going over there and meeting everybody at Churchill Downs. They were super accepting, really open, let us go wherever we wanted. We pretty much had a run of the facilities, so it was a really neat experience for everybody.
I think it went really well. I think that our biggest concern at first was just logistically how we were going to do it, but it went really well, and we were on the Wi-Fi, and we had the individual devices, and everything went really smoothly. But it was amazing just being able to walk everywhere and meet everybody, and they were all very supportive and very excited just to get out there on Google Plus.
Yeah, I agree. I think we were all of us were working together with our IT guys and just trying to figure out what all do we have in place. Do we have enough Wi-Fi? Do we have all our cameras? All those logistics. Trying to get those in place, and if any one of those things go wrong, then the whole thing could have crashed and burned in a hurry. So it was really exciting to see all that stuff come together. And really on the actual day that we did it, other than we had just a little bit of a microphone issue with one of our cameras, but other than that, everything just went so smooth, and that was it was great that really the technology behind the trip wasn't really the focus of it, and it really became all about the conversations that we had. And so, Melissa, what were some of your favorite conversations that took place throughout the field trip?
I was really pleased with the girl that they sent with me for my 2 locations. I thought she was very well versed in just the knowledge of the Downs, and then anything that the kids asked, because I think really that's what teachers wanted to get out of it, was for their kids to be able to ask good questions and get answers. And I think the best conversations took place when kids were asking questions and she was able to answer a lot of them right there live, and the kids were able to get automatic feedback. I really felt like that was a very positive thing from it.
Yeah, it was fun because at first, we started getting to our questions, and I asked a couple from just the chat, and then a couple of the teachers asked questions. But as soon as that first kid asked one question, and the kids were like, "Oh my goodness, I'm not gonna let my teacher ask the question. I want to ask this question. This is my question." It was great to see all these kids step up and just really take ownership of the whole event and really wanted to pull out of it what they wanted to learn. Because really, I think that's what a good field trip's all about. It's about, first of all, introducing them to maybe a place that they haven't been yet, or some place that maybe they would never go on their own. But then to turn them loose to say, okay, we've brought you here, and then now, what do you want to get out of it? And so, I think we had over 30 different people viewing the field trip at one time. I'm not quite sure how many of those were our own classroom teachers, but we probably had over 20 of our own classrooms watching this at one time in our district. And so the ability to take that many students on a field trip, I think, is always fantastic. And so I know you all have been in buildings and had a chance to talk with our teachers and talk with students since then. What are some things that you heard from teachers and students since our field trip?
I think the teachers have the feedback that the teachers have given has been wonderfully positive. I think that being able to ask the questions and having the kids, having their questions being responded to, and that was the biggest part for them. Like you said, getting out what they want to get out of it. But I also think teaching them to ask questions and teaching them it's okay to ask questions and have them go up and be the facilitators of their own questions, teaches kids to take ownership of their learning.
I think I love, in talking with teachers, the potential of everything. And this field trip went really well. It was a lot of fun. It was, a lot of kids had heard, especially being around Derby time, of Churchill Downs and the races, and actually be there and know some of the faces that were on the screen and interact. But just the potential of, you don't have to wait for that, field trip day to come, and you don't have to schedule the buses, and you don't have to do all those logistics. All that is taken care of it, and now you can reach out beyond the 4 walls of your classroom, and it's limitless. With the connected classrooms and things, we've had kids visit places all over the world, like you said earlier, that they could not have done otherwise. And so this presents that opportunity, not only for local places that our kids don't get to go, but places from coast to coast and all over the planet. They've even done some from space. So just the opportunity to give those students those experiences that without the technology, they wouldn't have been able to experience otherwise. I think so. The potential there is what gets me really excited, and I think my schools have been really excited about.
And I think that's kind of why we decided to do this, because we had done a few of those, just kind of experimental virtual field trips in the beginning of the school year, and there was always that we want more, like more engagement, more close-up, more movement to see different things. So I think we just decided, all these other people are doing this, why can't we? So we looked at some places around here. Churchill Downs was one that came up among teachers and said, please, take our kids there. But you're right, just the potential of, so many other places, because we have a pretty rich, region of, things to do. The Slugger Museum, just, I think the Bat Factory is a really cool place, maybe some of the big libraries in town. What are some other things that teachers have said that they would like to see? The Falls of the Ohio, Connors Prairie. I even had a history teacher propose that we go to Rwanda with him and do a virtual field trip. So, there's so much out there that we could take to the kids that they may not, be able to afford to, or just the time just to be able to get out and do it. But I agree, the potential is endless.
It's definitely about more than the field trip itself. It's about what blossoms from it. Teachers have been connecting with other teachers from different countries. You're a Spanish 4. What is it like to speak authentically to someone who is a first generation Spanish speaker, and then you connect with that person on Google. And like Melissa said too, we watched these videos and these field trips, and we knew that what we wanted out of them, and that's why we took it by the horns and went in there, because we wanted interaction, we wanted movement, we wanted.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this it really typifies, I think, what the whole vision of going one-to-one is all about. It really opening up learning. It wasn't for the better part of the year, students would see me in the hallway like, oh, you're the Chromebook guy. You're the guy that gave us this piece of technology. And then during Chromebook collection, I was out with students in our buildings. Last time I was with students in buildings across our district. They're like, oh, you were the person that was part of the Day of the Downs trip. Then they were the one talking about that. So instead of talking to me about just a physical device that we had given our students, it was a really great opportunity for me to have conversations with our students about what they've been learning in the classroom, and how that learning couldn't take place in that level the way that it did on that day. And I think also it really helped alleviate some of the fears for our educators of what happens if it doesn't work, what happens if it fails, and things like that. So even though, like I said, we pretty much went off without any problems in our field trip, we'd have that small bump in the road early on. But I think that they saw that little small bump in the road didn't derail the whole thing. And I think that's great for teachers to see. It's great for students to see that things don't have to go perfect. Things don't have to go 100%. Everything has the opportunity to to quickly adjust and move and be flexible. And that's great for our teachers to see that really nothing has to go 100% according to plan. It doesn't mean that great learning can't still take place. And so I really commend you threw me out in the field to really adjust to those needs. And so as we wrap things up here, what was your one big takeaway, and what do you hope to bring to this type of experience for the next time that we do this? We are certainly going to be doing this again.
I think my big takeaway is we talked about all the logistics and trying to get everything lined up, but actually the day of, since we'd kind of done our homework and we did some walkthroughs, it was, I think, really simple. It was it was basically Brett at his computer, we each had an iPad, and that was it. We had our our hotspots, but how easy it was. And I think going forward, with the e-learning coaches and then with Brett leading it, but we've had the discussion of turning it over to the kids and having kids lead some of these, and kids having some say on, hey, we want to go here. Not only do we want to go there, we will actually go there and kind of lead the field trip and get things set up. And so again, it's just that the potential in going forward with it, but really handing that power over to the kids and giving them their voice in field trips going forward.
My big takeaway was, especially for the younger kids, you have that pretend and reality worlds, and when we were watching the videos or the field trips at first, and we tell the kids this is happening live, this is happening right now, and just to kind of get that understanding. But when you give shout outs to the kids and you say, you can say things and then they say it back to you and they realize that it really is happening right now, I think that really opens up their world and just them to be able to see things and interact with things. And that's the big thing. It's not just seeing it, it's interacting with it. And it could really, just the background knowledge that they would be able to build.
So my big takeaway from it was, I've kind of gone, we all have a new position. This is a new program for us, the one-to-one initiative. And, we have some teachers that have jumped right on board, but we have some that are just a little hesitant because of, like you said, they're afraid that it won't go perfectly. And, it's hard when you have kids in the classroom and things aren't going well to keep them managed and to keep them engaged. So my big takeaway was, I was surprised at the number of teachers who really hadn't reached out to me or, even come sometimes, and I hate to say avoided, but because they don't avoid me, but it's just like they're not really willing to just take hold of technology that I've shown them this year and run with it. But the numbers of teachers and the teachers who actually did participate in the field trip, it gives me hope for going forward for next year, in that I'm going to be able to reach out to more teachers and say, hey, you've done that virtual field trip with us. Hey, how about we do this one with the Minnesota Zoo, or how about we go do this one with Polar Bears International, or the Imagine Science films. So I really feel like this opened up a lot of doors for our teachers to say, okay, I did it once, it went really well. Now let's get into some content area things with my classes that I can do individually, because really, I actually at the end of the year did have a science teacher that said, hey, yeah, come in and do some things with me. There's this virtual trip coming up and I'd like to try it out. So that was my big takeaway.
Melissa, as you're talking about your big takeaway and mentioning that, teachers that were just really, maybe hesitant early on in the year or really but came on board for this, I think what teachers saw in our virtual field trip that we planned was just the power of partnership. And that's, as an e-learning team and technology department, we're not going to leave teachers just hanging with this piece of technology, figure out what to do with it. But this is a partnership. We're all educators. We're all here to teach the same students. These are all our students. And so I think it was great to see teachers, take a hold of the partnership that we created, throughout this virtual field trip. And that was a real big takeaway for me. So it's so great to see, really for the first time, this partnership all across our district. We had teachers in our elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools all participating in the same event, and really all three grade levels taking away different things from that event. And I think it has really showed how technology can really bridge those gaps between our schools and made our school district that's spread out over Jeffersonville, Charlestown, and New Washington feel so much closer, even though our schools have some distance between them. And that was a real big takeaway for me. Well, we've enjoyed this time to get together and just talk about what a great event it was, Day of the Downs. And the four of us were just really a small part in this. If it wasn't for the great people at Churchill Downs that opened up their doors to us and put together a great program for our classes, if it wasn't for teachers who took time to schedule this trip, and if it wasn't for students who really engaged in the entire event, I'm just happy that the four of us were able to play a very small role in such a great event. And as we look forward to next school year, I think we can put together multiple of these over the course of this year trip. We have a lot of great things in store, a lot of great things coming up in this next school year, and it's just great things are ahead, and we're excited about it. I'm Brett Clark, and on behalf of the entire e-learning team, we thank you so much for all your participation and all the great things we did this past school year. And we're looking forward to more great things ahead in the next school year.